Good evening and welcome to VicMania Thursday Night Racing. Tonight we are at the Osterreichring, more commonly known as Red Bull Ring. This round we revert to the 60-minute race with no pit stop required and no refueling permitted. Looking at the qualifying results, pole position was to Jack Tunks with a 1:27.502 in the BMW M4. Lights out and away we go. Tunks held the lead into the first corner, but there was a little bit of position jostling in the middle pack. Vinny was slow at the start. Reynolds got the jump on Wells. Reynolds even got ahead of him to turn one, was a little bit gentle, but hit that sausage curb, hit Wells, hit Hamilton, and Vinny went round. Approaching turn 2, Joslin was pressuring Skinny Luke, but immediately came under pressure from Eagles, who took the position. Reynolds was punted around at turn 2 by McMillan, dropped right back down the order. Fletcher was making a battle with McMillan approaching turn 3, trying to get the position, but they'd go side by side through the next couple of corners. Will Pay used this to his advantage and got past Fletcher. Free of Joslin's pressure, Skinny Luke was pushing up onto the back of Lester, however had a little bit of a wobble coming out of turn 1. With Fletcher having been slowed before, Hamilton drove around the outside of him at turn 1 on lap 2. On the second lap, Joslin got back past the Screaming Eagle. Reynolds was also making his way back up the order, getting past the Audi of O'Brien. Lap 4, and Heckinger lost it at the first corner on the sausage curb. Five laps in, and the front engine V8s were at the front of the field. Tunks pulling out a 2-second lead over Lester, who had a very tight lead over Skinny Luke. Reynolds was all over Icarus by this point, but he outbraked himself and went straight into the McLaren of Fletcher. McMillan was applying heavy pressure to Woofer, but he was holding his own in the Mustang. Will Pay hit the sausage curb, making an error at the final corner. This allowed Hamilton to get a run on him up the pit straight. O'Brien got the run on Icarus and went for the overtake, however Icarus forced the issue and they kept going to turn 3. This allowed Wells, Reynolds and Vinny to climb all over the back of them. Icarus caught the sand on the exit of the corner and his position was done for. However, Reynolds tried to go around the outside of Wells at the next sequence of corners. Chris Reynolds and Vinny tried to go 3 wide into turn 2. This wasn't gonna work. Hamilton had struggled so far this season with a few servo dropouts. He was glad to be in a good position in the race 8 laps in. But all while this unfolded, Lester was being pushed very hard by Skinny Luke to keep up the pace. On lap 13, Will Pay managed to get past Robbins, but lost the position back a few laps later. Skinny Luke made an error trying to dive onto Lester. This dropped him back behind Jozen. A few laps behind O'Brien, Reynolds finally forced the issue and took the position at turn 2. Vinny tried the long way round Eagles at turn 3, that held to no avail. Wolfer outbraked himself into turn 2 and lost 2 positions to Will Pay and Christian Wells as a result. Vinny downshifted too quickly and blew his engine as a result. Hamilton's day went from bad to really bad. At the exact same time, Eagles outbraked himself and hit O'Brien with immediate redress in effect. And Christian was pressuring Will Pay. Lap 22, O'Brien ran wide to turn 2 and Eagles got through. With no chance of a good position, Hamilton pitted for fresh tyres to try and set fastest lap. However, he came out behind Reynolds and made contact with him at the final corner. This contact allowed Eagles to get the position from Reynolds. Lester and Jozen were duking it out, which allowed Skinny Luke to creep up on them. The following lap, Lester tried to take the position back, but all this did was lose him out to Skinny Luke. Even late in the race and several laps down, battles were still going on. Top spot went to Jack Tunks, who took a commanding win this race, the BMW very strong at Red Bull Ring. So, looking at the results, we see first, second and third in Pro are Jack Tunks, Skinny Luke and John Zhu. And in AM class we've got Sean O'Brien, Ben Fletcher and Heckinger. Looking at the championship results and standings so far, we see Jack Tunks and John Zhu are equal on 154 points, and then a bit of a gap back to Skinny Luke on 123, Will Pay on 118, and Christian Wells rounding out the top 5 on 117 points. Thanks for joining us on this rather interesting race this week. Next week, we go to the Hungaroring.